Seconds. All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Mavs Film Room podcast for the second time today. The first time was with Rohan and Fazil earlier in the first round when the early part of the first round was happening and when the Mavericks made their pick at number 9. They did a great job with that. But Fazil is back with me now. I couldn't join earlier, but I'm glad to be back here to recap the first round of the 2026 NBA draft. By now, you all know the Mavericks selected Morez Johnson out of Michigan with the 9th overall pick. A lot of reactions to that, and we'll talk about it a little bit more here. And then at the end of the first round, the Mavericks did not select a player with the 30th pick. Instead, they completed a 3-team deal with the Phoenix Suns and the New York Knicks, in which they acquired Sergio De Larrea from Spain, who was picked by New York with the 25th pick. It was a complicated deal, of which the details I don't have with me right now. But since we're live and there's no emphasis on production quality, I will look it up right now. According to Shams Charania, so it was Jake Fisher was the first person to report that the Mavericks were trading with the Suns, which would send the Mavericks' 30th pick to Phoenix. And initially it was reported that they were trading it to Phoenix for the 47th pick and 2 future second-round picks. And my reaction was utter disgust at that deal, because why would you throw away a first round pick for a bad second round pick and 2 future seconds? But then Shams Charania came back a few minutes later with more context around the trade, which said that New York traded number 25 pick Sergio De Larrea to the Mavericks for Koa Pete, who the Mavericks selected at number 30, and 2 second round picks. The Knicks then traded Koa Pete to the Suns for 3 second rounders and cash. So in that process, the Knicks got 5 second rounders. I'm not sure if the Mavericks were the ones sending seconds, or I guess the Suns sent seconds. I don't know. Anyways, the Knicks got 5 second round picks. The Suns got Koa Pete, and the Mavericks got Sergio De Larrea. So that's who the Mavericks walked away with in the first round of tonight's draft. Morez Johnson at number 9 out of Michigan. And obviously the Mavericks hired Dusty May yesterday as their head coach. I'm sure you guys touched upon it a little bit in the first stream. And then they picked Sergio De Larrea with the 25th pick in tonight's draft. So, Fazil, your immediate reaction to the 2 picks that the Mavericks made tonight?
So my immediate reaction to picking Morez Johnson was I was frankly a little shocked. I thought Morez was going to go. Obviously, some of the more recent mocks had him going pretty high up compared to where he was a month ago, perhaps. But I didn't think he was going to go top 10, frankly. But the more I looked into it, after that split second decision, the more I talked myself into it, and I was like, okay, I think Tim McMahon said he heard comparisons to Al Horford and Bam, which I don't know about that. I will say that based off the physical measurements, Morez is very close to Bam physically, but I don't know. I don't think they have quite the same skill set, the same capabilities. But based off the tools that Morez does have, the great measurables, the athleticism, the possibly developing jump shot, I think that's less wish casting with him than it is for, say, I don't know, Derek Lively or Ade Mara, which Rohan and I were talking about how they kind of sort of flash a 3 ball, but you don't really expect them to develop one. I think there's a lot to be excited about. I think possibly what I said in the first stream was we're maybe getting a Robert Williams or an Isaiah Stewart type of guy, which you paired that with Luca. Oh my God, Cooper and Derek Lively. Sorry.
Hey, maybe we pair him with Luca in 2028. Who knows?
Yeah. Future thinking. Hey, look
Oh,
at
hey,
you,
what's up,
Vinay.
Vinay? What's up, Vinay?
What's going on, fellas? Hopefully, I don't sound too choppy.
You
Not
kind of do, but
yet.
it's okay.
Do I
Yeah, the
actually
more I
go? Let me get this in order.
saw the reactions from people who knew better than me on what Morez Johnson can bring to a team, especially the Mavericks, the more I was feeling pretty good about it. And as far as it goes with De La Rrea, Um, Again, I don't know too much about him, even less so about him, like you had mentioned, Jay. But it seems like when our friend Richie he tweeted out when it seemed like the Knicks had him a really short blurb on what his strengths and weaknesses are, and I think he has potential to maybe not get a huge look with the Mavs coming into next season, but he could be an impact player going forward, and he's probably a bit of a project, but I'm okay with that. Um, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well. Before I get into my thoughts, Vinay, you were at the draft tonight in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. What was the vibe like in that room? I mean, obviously, it was a highly anticipated 2026 draft class. What was it like being there for that moment?
First off, a ton of Knicks fans, like unbelievable amount of Knicks fans, and they were all there to wait until pick 24, 25, whenever the Knicks ended up picking. So that was kind of the first thing I noticed. And then the second thing, like the draft kind of went shot for the first part of the draft, so there wasn't any like shocking. I would say the Mavericks pick with Morez Johnson was probably the first like stunning pick within the draft like crowd. But overall, fun ambiance and fun crowd and great draft that was fun to cover for the last 7 months.
Yeah, finally, after a long season and a long lead up to the draft, tonight the draft isn't over yet, but obviously the first round is over. We finally know who the Mavericks are picking and who they picked, rather. What was your reaction when the Morez
We
Johnson
drafted.
pick happened?
Well, I wasn't necessarily surprised. I could see the scenario where they went Michigan guy there and they ended up doing it. I really did kind of buy that they were going to go Braden Burries at 9. I'm kind of surprised that they passed on him, which to me, I'm still stunned by all these hours later that they went Morez over Burries. But Morez is a good player. I kind of had that Michigan front court kind of in the similar tier. Uh, but I kind of see the appeal with Morez. He's going to be the most defensively versatile of all three of those guys. If you believe in the jump shot, there's even more upside there offensively. He's a monster rebounder, so I was fine with that pick, and even more so when they added up and got a Sergio De Larrea later. Getting a guard
How
to go with Morez is what makes that combination good to me.
Yeah, I think that that made a good draft because at first when I found that the Mavericks were just trading 30 for what seemed like pick 47 and two future seconds, I was like, what the hell is this? But
Yeah,
it
that
ended up being a
was
pretty good
stunning.
trade. I mean, I think the Mavericks picked up one of the best international players in this draft. I mean, I guess there really weren't that many international players in the first round. It was just Kareem Lopez from Mexico and then Sergio De Larrea from Spain, and obviously both those guys played professionally overseas. But I think it's an interesting flyer. I'm not sure how ready he is to contribute immediately, but I do like the pick. I like his skill set. I think he provides a lot of what the Mavericks will need next to Cooper Flag in terms of ball handling, shot creation, some shooting ability as well. He's a long, tall guard, um, which I like. So we'll see what happens with him. Did you think the Morez Johnson pick was a bit of a reach? Because that was my initial reaction. I didn't have him anywhere in that range. I know there was some buzz about him potentially going top 10, but I thought it was going to be Braden Burries or Nate Ament, like you said, Vinay.
I didn't really think it was much of a reach, to be honest with you. Like once those point guards went, and I'm kind of surprised that it ended up going point guard at 5, point guard at 6, point guard at 7, point guard at 8. I mean, it's just the worst case scenario, I guess, for us if you wanted a point guard at 9. So once that happened, I kind of thought that next grouping of players was similar. I like the Axel the most out of all three Michigan guys, but I definitely understand the age discrepancy and why they didn't go that route. Burries would have been fine pick to me too at 9, but I could see Morez. If you're looking for the impact now type of player, I could see Morez impacting this team this year more than even a Burries or Nate Ament. I mean, definitely Nate Ament would have. So curious to
Yeah,
see how like what their guard plan is going forward, and kind of seems like even more sure that Kyrie's going to be here for a while.
yeah, me and you both, because I think that's what I was really hoping to come out of this first round with was a guard that could contribute immediately, and that's why I was really hoping it would be Braden Burries. I was hoping that the Clippers would pick Michael Brown at number 5, and then Brooklyn would trade, or not, Brooklyn would reach to pick Nate Ament, and then all of a sudden you have the possibility of one of these top guards like Kingston Flemings, um, or Keaton Wagler potentially falling to 9. Obviously, that did not happen. The Clippers picked Keaton Wagler, Nets picked Michael Brown, and obviously we all knew for weeks at this point that the Kings were going to pick Darius Acuff at 7, which really led the big question to me: what were the Hawks going to do at 8? They kind of surprised me picking Kingston Flemings, but obviously I think he was the best player on the board at that pick. And then 9 was the big mystery. Was it going to be Nate Ament? Was it going to be Ade Mara? Was it going to be
we
Braden
got saved
Burries?
from we got saved from Nate Amon. Why are we not like happy and jubilant
Yeah, I
in
mean,
this
Nate
stream?
Ament ended up going 13th uh, to the Heat, which will go to the Bucks in the Giannis trade. So I think that would have also been an even bigger reach. I think my reaction to the Morez Johnson pick is I think he can play. Like Morez Johnson is ready to contribute immediately because again he's a 6'9" forward, 250 pounds, has a 7'3" wingspan. Like he's got the body to step in and play right away. He's a good play finisher. He's physical. He can rebound. He's got good touch around the basket. The comparisons that we saw from Tim McMahon to Bam Adebayo and Al Horford were a little bit surprising to me. I don't see either of those guys immediately in Morez Johnson, but
Bam
I think
Adebayo would be like his grand slam like ceiling if he like
yeah.
puts everything in his game. Uh, and Al Horford kind of similar body type. So I mean, we drafted Bam Adebayo at 9 and Luka Doncic in the 20s. So how can we be disappointed?
I mean, look, I think as Fazal said earlier, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Fazal, but I think there's like legitimate hope that Morez Johnson can develop a jump shot, whether it's this year, whether it's a year or two from now. I mean, in the combine, he shot 17 of 25 in the shooting drill, which I mean is pretty good. And obviously, like Morez Johnson is a very efficient scorer near the paint. He shot 62.3% on field goals last year, which you need that level of efficiency from a big man. So I think from that perspective, he's ready to contribute. He's not a bad free throw shooter either. 78%. That's pretty good for a big man. So there's a lot of reason to be optimistic about this pick. I think the thing that Mavs fans were a little bit uh, tepid about was the fact that this didn't necessarily address any of the Mavericks' needs for shot creation, shooting, offense in general. I think Morez Johnson is still a ways away from being, uh, a true impactful offensive player. And so from that, and obviously, the Mavericks have a logjam of front court players, especially those who aren't very talented offensively, whether it's Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, even Najee Marshall. There's a lot of guys in the front court that are pretty good players, but none of them can really shoot. None of them can really create. And you just don't know how the logjam is going to kind of resolve itself. Like, is Morez Johnson going to come off the bench to start the season? Is he going to be playing behind PJ Washington? Is PJ Washington going to be okay playing behind Morez Johnson? Like, these are questions that I have after this pick that obviously we don't know the answer to. We have to see how the rest of the offseason shakes out for them. But that was kind of my initial reaction for the pick. Like, I can see the vision with it, but there's a lot of work still to be done to balance out the roster because right now this team looks awfully similar to what it did last year in terms of just the skill sets of the individual players.
I thought some of the front court jam would be fixed today with some trades, but I guess I mean there were no NBA players traded today during the draft, which is pretty
Yeah, that was
remarkable.
very surprising.
Is that a
So I
first?
guess
Because
it's
I've
just
never, like, I can't remember the last time that's happened.
I can't remember it either. I mean, I don't remember last year's draft, honestly, but it feels like at least every year there's one player, even like a small player that's like not very big name, gets
it's
traded
just
to.
the value of a rookie contract is just so insane. And then like this draft particularly, like every team could talk themselves into a guy from 1 to 30 that could impact the team like immediately. So like combination of those two factors probably hurt the Mavericks if they were trying to trade some guys. For me, like Morez is more of a center. I don't really love the fit with him and Coop and Lively, but I mean you can play them together at times. But I feel like Morez's best center or best position would be as a center. So that kind of like infiltrates the Lively Gafford pairing that's on this team right now. And if he is a four, that kind of infiltrates what Cooper and PJ do. So it is going to be fascinating to see if they can get get off some of these front court guys because it still is an unbalanced roster. Maybe even more so after the ninth pick today. But in terms of Morez, though, like I don't think the Mavericks and Masai and Mike were necessarily thinking about what type of skill set fits this year's team the best. I think they kind of wanted to establish a culture and identity with this pick and get a guy that they felt could play in long like playoff runs and impact playoff games. And the playoffs we just saw, Morez is one of those guys that stands out as a guy that can play immediately and play in these Oklahoma City, San Antonio type of series just because of his defensive versatility, his physicality, and just what he brings overall. So I get why they made the pick. I'm not really that mad about it. And there wasn't anyone like glaring that I thought they like passed on for Morez.
Yeah, I mean, I think Burries would have probably been my personal pick at that spot. But look, I mean,
Yeah, that would have
this
been
is their
cool too.
vision for this is their vision for the team. I mean, like you said, I don't think that this is a 1 year project. Like they're obviously taking a long term view with this. I think it's a little bit weird just because they have Kyrie Irving still on this team, and presumably you would want to compete, but I think Kyrie is often going to or is definitely going to serve more as as a veteran mentor, a guy who can guide Cooper Flag, and the rest of these young guys to really develop into winning players. Um, Fossil, any additional thoughts on the Morez fit?
Um, Not really at the moment. Like, I don't know if that shooting is going to come along immediately in on day one. So, as it stands, the Mavs have a very, again, if they keep all the guys they currently have, they have a very shooting unbalanced roster. Even with Kyrie coming back, that spacing is going to be low key atrocious, which I'm not. I think that's got to change. I hope it will. I think we're probably going to see a way more trades with real active players involved throughout the offseason instead of, I guess, in the draft. That being said, I just wanted to touch back earlier on how you described the trade for De Larrea. So the Mavs traded away 2 second-round picks to the Knicks. The Suns traded away 3 seconds. So the Knicks came out. They went out of the first round. They netted 5 seconds, and we did not give up 48 in that trade. So I think we might have given up like some of the picks we got from Washington in the 80 trade, perhaps. But yeah, tomorrow we're going to be drafting at 48. Again, assuming nothing changes with that. So that's going to be interesting. And yeah, I don't know. Again, I think that's a fine cost to pick up Sergio. Um, Other than that, though, no, I don't really know because I think that even though I do believe Morez like should get playing time, like a real spot in the rotation on day one. It's going to be weird to try to get past PJ Gafford, Najee, even like I was telling Rohan, I don't think you can play Cooper at the 4, unless injuries occur. Like he's probably going to be going back to that, sliding over to the point guard as his secondary position again, just because like this roster is so front court heavy, which I hope it changes, but for now, like, yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, and no NBA players were traded tonight, as we all said. I have to imagine that changes tomorrow, though. Obviously teams are reluctant to give up first round picks right now with the lottery changes, and obviously this was a good draft, so I think a lot of teams wanted a chance to select a player tonight. But tomorrow, I mean, it's second round. Historically, especially over the last 2 years, since the second round has been on. I know you're snoring right now, but you look at the second round, especially the last 2 years, like almost every single pick gets traded. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but like especially even 2 years ago, like literally every single team traded a second round pick in that draft. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of activity tomorrow. I think teams will have a chance to sleep on it tonight, to talk about deals that didn't come to fruition tonight, and we might see some players move tomorrow. I mean, the Mavericks have some veterans that could go for second round picks, like Najee Marshall, Daniel Gafford potentially. Could you get up into the high 30s, mid 30s with either of those guys? Clay Thompson as well. So I'll be interested to see if any of the Mavericks veterans get moved tomorrow because I just don't think you can go into the season with this roster. Like, forget about winning today, winning in the future. this team still does not have the spacing, I think, that Cooper Flag needs to really take the next step in his development as the centerpiece of the Mavericks offense. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, obviously, he's super talented and he'll figure it out. But we saw last year with the spacing they had, it looked pretty rough. And you see his ability to have that quick first step, get to the basket. He loves to do that. Imagine how good that would look with proper spacing. We didn't really take any steps towards that today. We'll see if that happens tomorrow.
I'm curious if Morez will be placed as kind of a stretch five in their different center options that they have, because if there's like any semblance of an outside shot, I didn't like him offensively as like a four, being kind of stuck in the corner, but if he can like pick and pop and play that kind of game, I feel like the Mavericks and myself kind of think that Morez is going to have the ability to space out and shoot like that. So I don't know if that's going to happen this year or anything like that, but I do think Morez gives you a nice little third option in that center bullpen if they kind of stick with that center rotation of Lively and Gafford, that gives you a five outlook that they never really had before. So in a way, he almost did kind of increase your spacing today.
I mean, like the stretch five is, or stretch four even, is kind of the hardest archetype, in my opinion, of player to find in today's league. Like, we saw the Mavericks struggle with it even in the Luka Doncic era. Maxi Kleba was really their only player that could kind of do that. And obviously, like, he was at the tail end of his not career, because
We
obviously he's
just
still in the
drafted
league.
Maxi Kleber on steroids.
That was really the thought that I had too. This, he feels like a supercharged Maxi Kleber with, high athleticism, high motor, better rebounding, I think. And if he can get the shot to a respectable level, I
Better
mean, Morez,
rebounding, you think? I would hope so. Maxi was a
one of the
golden
worst
retriever when
rebound,
he rebounded.
one of the worst rebounders I've ever seen for a player that size. Morez Johnson, I believe, averaged 7 rebounds, 7.3 rebounds last year, for Michigan. So he can
He
crash
was
the
their best
boards. Like,
rebounder. I thought he was their best rebounder of the three guys.
yeah, I mean, he's a double double guy. Like, I mean, 7.3 rebounds is great for a player of his size, and obviously in the NBA, he will be competing against bigger players. But you need a guy like that on your team. I mean, rebounding has been a weakness for the Mavericks, I think, especially since Derek Lively has been hurt. And honestly, even with Derek Lively in the lineup, having a guy like Morez to be the banger and kind of preserve Lively will be good as well. And if Morez Johnson, I mean, he shot 34% from three last season in college, didn't shoot a high volume of threes. He only shot zero point 0.9 threes per game. So that volume is not meaningful. But if he's able to take some steps this year, if he's able to shoot, I mean, if he's able to shoot 34% on 1 3-point attempt per game this year, I think that's a step in the right direction for his development as a shooter. Um, we'll have to
Does
see
it
if he does. But
does it make you guys feel better that Dusty May is likely the one that kind of chose him as the best of the three Michigan guys to develop for the NBA?
Fazal, I'll start with you, or you go first on that one.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure he had tons of influence in the pick. All three of the guys were there on the board at pick 9. So if he believes that Morez was not just the best player available in terms of, I suppose, future outlook, but also maybe the best fit for the Mavs too. Um, sure, I feel better about that for sure. Like, he would have, out of anybody basically on the planet, he might have the best outlook on that. So the most informed outlook, I should say. So yeah, I'm not gonna doubt the guy, at least not right now.
I think it makes me feel better about it, definitely, because obviously, Dusty May is hugely invested in Morez Johnson's development. So it's not a scenario in which there was any sort of disagreement between who the front office wanted to pick and who the coach wanted to pick. I think there was a lot of alignment on this pick, and obviously, there's no coach in the world that knows Morez Johnson better than Dusty May. So I think that gives me more confidence, that Dusty May can bring him along at the right speed and help him reach his full potential. I think that's super important. You have situations where players with weaknesses get drafted into situations where maybe they weren't the top choice, and that could, that could lead to them not developing to their full potential. But I feel like Morez Johnson is coming into an environment that is 100% invested in him as a foundational piece of the team going forward. So it makes me feel good, at least that we have like the one coach in the world who's equipped to do that.
Yeah, I just think I don't know. I'm not as like angry or sad about the pick. It's fine to me. Like I don't think they reached. I don't think there was anyone there that was like glaring they should take. Like I like Phylon more than everyone in this group, but evidently the NBA didn't. And he went to the 20. So I mean, other than Phylon, I don't know who else would. Burries for sure. And then once again, I'm surprised the Mavericks didn't go Burries after all that pre-draft smoke ever since the Mavericks landed at 9 at the lottery. They didn't even take him. He was right there for them. So yeah, over anyone else. Like I like all three Michigan guys. I think some people would have been pissed at Mara at 9 because he probably can't play with Lively and he's giving you 24 minutes a game tops. Yaxel's 57 years old, so I get why people didn't like him either. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like with Morez. I don't think it's going to be a glamorous summer league or anything like that. But once we get into the actual season and we see him playing off of these stars, I think we'll like the pick more.
Yeah, I what was I gonna say? Shit, I forgot. But I think that the summer league definitely is not going to be the most glamorous summer league team ever, but it wasn't really that glamorous with Cooper Flag either. The important thing is that these guys just get reps, and hopefully Sergio De Larrea is part of the summer league team too, because
I
I'd
doubt
love
he
to
will
see.
be. He's still playing. He's still playing basketball.
Yeah, and that's the other question that I kind of had is, will he make the jump to the NBA from EuroLeague? I mean, I think he will. I have to imagine that if he was picked in the first round, then that's part of the plan. But we have seen situations in the past, such as with Dario Saric way back in the day, where or Ricky Rubio even, where they get picked in the first round, get stashed in Europe for a couple years, and then come over eventually. Sergio Yule never did that, although I don't know if he was a first round pick. But, anyways, I do think that he will make the jump to the NBA. What do you guys think?
I think he will too. I think if the Knicks kept him like they were originally supposed to, I think like for the Knicks where they don't have as many roster spots or playing time for a guy like him to play, then he would have probably been stashed. But like for us, I feel like there's an opportunity maybe for him to play a few minutes. Even if he doesn't, if he's stashed for 1 year, I'd be shocked if he wasn't back in the States for the year after that. But I would assume that he's in the NBA to start this year.
Yeah, we'll see how much playing time he actually gets. That might be a longer term project because he has to get stronger. I think that's probably priority one for him. But we'll see. I mean, obviously, again, there's a lot of potential changes that the Mavericks can make. We don't know what this roster is going to look like by training camp. We don't even know what it's going to look like, I think, by the end of this week, even going into free agency. So, a lot of potential change um, for the Mavericks. What do you guys like about Sergio De La Rea's game? I don't know how familiar you are with him, Fossil. I'm not super familiar with him either. But do you have any initial impressions based on what you've seen?
I mean, from the very, I'll be frank, the very quick deep dive that I did, quick deep dive, after he got, it was revealed that he was going to the Mavs. Being a plus shooter, worked very hard to develop his 3-point shooting game and having actual playmaking potential, and on top of that, being a large guard slash maybe even forward, who knows? That there's a lot to like about that. Um, I think the ceiling on him is probably going to be pretty low, especially if he doesn't develop as an athlete the way that he kind of needs to succeed in the NBA. But that being said, like, he could be. I I kind of believe in him more than Nembhard, to be honest. Just because, again, nothing against Nembhard. He's a greatly skilled player as well, but just the size is kind of a reason to fade him. Um, and you don't quite have that same concern with Sergio. So, you know, um, those were my impressions.
Vinay, what about you?
I like Sergio a lot. I thought this year's draft class was pretty stacked at the guard position. And I didn't think it just included the 5 to 10 guys. I thought it included like the Corey Sturts, Cylon group that went after that. And then I also think it included Sergio, who he didn't start for his team this year with Valencia, but there's just a lot of nice flashes with him with his shooting, his passing. His handle's a little weak, and he's kind of a weaker athlete, like Fazil said. so that might limit his ceiling. But if he improves his handling to where he can get to more spots on the court, then you're going to see a lot more of that passing flash. And I think he's a good developmental bit, and I think I kind of like what I saw from him as a guard prospect.
Yeah, I like his shooting. I mean, at Valencia this season, he's shooting almost 41% on 3.3 attempts per game from three, which is pretty solid. I think like that's not nothing. 3.7 assists per game. I think he can play make a little bit. 83% from the free throw line. Um, so I mean, he's an intriguing prospect. I think that you would like to see a little bit more offensive upside from him, but the shooting alone, I think, is a great place to start. And if he can handle the ball and at least eat up minutes as a guard, I think that's what you can hope from him. And yeah, Ryan Nemhard, I'm not sure what place he has on a Masai Ujiri roster. I guess we'll find out and see. But based on who the Mavericks drafted today, I mean, obviously the Ryan Nemhards of the world are not players that Masai Ujiri has typically favored. Barring a few exceptions like Fred Van Vliet. But um, so yeah, I mean, I think that these were two solid picks for the Mavericks. I think time will tell how good of a draft this was. Like I hesitate to give it a grade right now because it's way too early. Like you don't know what careers
Well, that's what
these
everyone can
guys are
say for
going to have.
draft grades. Give us a draft grade.
I mean, I think like you have to give it. I would say it's a B. I wasn't super enthused with this draft like a lot of, like not a lot, but like some people were. I felt that the Morez pick was a little bit surprising and didn't address needs for this team. But at the same time, like I think I like his developmental potential the more I read and learn about him. So part of that is just a little bit of unfamiliarity. And I think De Larrea was a player that I had on my radar as well. Just again, like an intriguing international player. I think at that point in the draft, like late in the first round, like that's the time to kind of take some chances on guys like that. Um, and it's nice to have a European player on the team again. So there's that added bonus too. So overall, I'd give it a B. But the retroactive grade could be higher depending on how Morez Johnson's career and rookie season go. Fazal, what grade would you give this draft?
I think a B is pretty solid as well. I don't want to say like, yeah, I do wish we had found a way to trade up, but again, given like the trades that did happen, we didn't really have much to give. Um, you know, thanks Nico for being in that fucking position that we didn't have much to give in the way of like other picks. So yeah, again, do I think that the Mavs are going to trade up in the second round to like get somebody like, for example, there's reporting that there's a lot of teams interested in 31, which the Knicks own, and that's for all intents and purposes another first round pick basically. But is that like, do I think the Mavs are going to give up a player to get 31 only? Which would who would that be, like Najee or something? I'm not quite sure. I mean, shit, it's possible, but like based off of what we had, I think we did pretty well. I still wish we had jumped up higher, maybe to get like LeBaron, but it could be worse.
Ye-
I will say I am surprised. I truly did think by the time we reached pick 8 and Kingston got picked, I thought Braden Burries was going to be the guy as well, but um, you could probably argue that he might have higher upside, but who knows? I'm still pretty happy with who we got.
Yeah, I mean, clearly this was the guy that they had ranked the highest on their board. So, I mean, I think you have to trust it. This front office hasn't given us a reason not to trust them at this point. So, as visceral as my reaction was, I just had to get it out of my system. I'm okay with it. I think I can see the vision, and obviously it's exciting to get an impact player that can grow with Cooper Flag. I think that's really the most important thing. And if he pans out to be the player that they believe he can be, then I think that's a great piece to have on your team. I really hope that starting tomorrow and for the rest of the offseason, they can make some moves to get some more guard talent, to get some more shooting. Um, if anything, to make it a more watchable product, because last season's team was not watchable in the slightest, and that was despite having Cooper Flag on the team. Like I want to enjoy watching a team with Cooper Flag on it. I don't want it to be a chore. And tonight's moves, as good as they were, did not necessarily solve that problem. So we'll see what they can do tomorrow. Um, transitioning a little bit to looking at the second round, Vinay, do you have any guys that are on your radar um, for the top of the second round? I mean, obviously the Mavericks are going to be picking 48th, which is not a great pick to have, but obviously there's some trade possibilities, I guess. But who are your top names in the second round?
The guys left on the board still include guys like Isaiah Evans, Bruce Thornton, but I don't think the Mavericks will go point guard after getting Sergio. Um, Henry Visar, kind of a stretch five type. But I don't know if any of those players, if I would trade Gafford or Najee for, but I don't know exactly what their pick value would be for those two guys because I thought they had a chance of getting you a pick in the 20s, but evidently not if they were trying to. So I don't think the Mavericks will end up trying to trade it into the early part of the second round. I think they'll probably just stay or probably even trade out of that pick altogether at 48. And I have no idea who I'd be eyeing at 48.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it's really a crapshoot. Why did you think that Isaiah Evans fell out of the first round?
I mean, I think for some of these guys like Cameron Carr, like Phylon, and then Isaiah Evans, I think the NBA is kind of punishing them a little bit for their frame and their BMI and their size. And uh, turns out that the NBA cares about it maybe more than Twitter does about the physical frame and size that these players have. So I think it's basically the biggest reason why those three guys fall. And honestly, part of my draft disappointment, if you will, for today is seeing Phylon just slide through the board and just like not get taken until pick 22 to a team that already has like an established backcourt was disappointing as a member
Yeah,
of
I
Phylon
know.
FC.
I know, man. Me too. I was shocked that he fell so far, and I felt that it was a bit of a travesty that he got picked um, to a team that had two already established scoring guards and Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. I mean, honestly, it was a little bit ironic because Tyrese Maxey, I think, was one of the players that LeBaron Philon was compared to in the pre-draft process. So it kind of sucked. Every time someone picked in the teens and then in the early 20s, like I was like, how is LeBaron Philon not getting picked? And I was like, this is a great opportunity for us to trade up and get him. Obviously, it didn't happen, um, but that would have been a great first round if we had managed to do that, or even Cameron Carr. But clearly, the Lakers made that trade and got him, which I thought that was a great pick for them as well.
Yeah, I'm just curious how this front court jam gets figured out before the start of the season because I don't know. There's just a lot of fours and fives, and Lively didn't
Not
even
a lot
play
of
like a lot of.
spacing.
Lively didn't even
Yeah.
play like he played 7 games last year. You're hoping that you're getting at least 40 games. Give me 40 games at least. So a lot of stuff to figure out.
I mean, yeah, as Jeremiah Engelman, former Mavericks front office executive, said, he liked the Morez Johnson pick, but doesn't see how it fits, obviously, with their current roster. But he also said this was the guy that brought you the Ingram Barrett, Scotty Barnes front court in Toronto. So this has kind of been the way that Masai has built his teams. So it wouldn't totally shock me if we didn't see much change from now until the start of the season. But I don't know. For Morez Johnson's sake, I hope that there is. Like, I don't want him buried behind Najee Marshall and PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. Like, that would kind of suck. I want him to be able to play minutes. I want him to be able to start, if even. So, from that perspective, I think you do need to clear some spots on the roster for him. I just don't know what those deals look like right now.
Yeah, I don't really have a take on who the Mavs could pick at 48 if they even keep that pick. But hopefully, if they do, I'd go for just straight up whoever the best shooter is on the board. Which, yeah, again, I haven't even looked at second round boards to like look that far in. Um, so I, yeah, just that's my general thinking on that. I think a name. Vinay listed all the names that I was like keenly looking at in that, late first, early second range. I think another name was Malik Thomas, who again, he's definitely not going to be there at 48 most likely. So, but yeah, like if there's a way to trade up into the early second round, that'd be awesome. I also don't expect it though.
That would be great. Vinay, what do you think about Malik Thomas?
I like him. There's a lot of players here that I like, but I mean, I think with the Mavericks got together, I like the most this kind of range, most Sergio. So. I'm happy with what they did on night one. To be honest with you, if they wanted to trade up for Evans and Malik Thomas to kind of shore up the shooting, cool. But they both have enough concerns about them that I understand why they didn't get taken tonight. So it's not the end of the world to me if they don't get one of those guys. Would you guys trade a Najee or a Gafford for one of those picks in the second round early?
Yes, I would. I
You
would.
would.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little weird to say that because it feels like on paper almost like you're, selling for poor value, but just specifically with Gafford getting off that contract, that should help. Again, like, yeah, I know Masai just said it like a month ago, hey, free agency is kind of dead, but still, if we're trying to build long term, it's better to have like a clearer cap sheet. And like, again, I wouldn't call Gafford's contract an albatross, but it's like kind of heading in that direction. So if we can get off him for like, again, a legit asset, which would be a early second round pick, and get one of these, aforementioned dudes, then that's not terrible in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that both those guys it's hard to imagine. It was hard to imagine getting first round picks for them. I mean, Daniel Gafford, I think his contract is working against him, and obviously he's dealt with a fair share of injury issues over the last season and a half. So that definitely has, tanked his value a bit. Najee Marshall, I think, is a useful role player that a lot of teams would have interest in, but you know, there's still limitations to his shooting. Um, obviously his contract, he's entering a contract year, he's extension eligible. What's that going to look like? The team that trades for him is going to need to pay him. So first round pick, I felt like might have been a little bit unrealistic for him. But I think, you could dangle him and potentially get up there into the top half of the second round. I mean, looking at the draft order for tomorrow, it's the Knicks at 31, the Grizzlies at 32, the Timberwolves at 33, the Cavaliers at 34, the Nuggets at 35, the Clippers at 36. I don't know if any of those teams are really fits for Daniel Gafford or Najee Marshall, but I suppose we'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah, I can't. I think these guys are just gonna stay, and yeah, like I said, I don't think we're gonna trade into that range of the draft, and we're probably just gonna stay put at 48 or trade out of it altogether, and maybe someone falls to you at 48. But the draft was kind of done today.
Yeah, I mean, I think after tonight, anything that happens for the Mavericks is kind of a bonus. They did the majority of their work tonight, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, free agency starts on, I guess, June 30th now, at 2 p.m. or whatever it is, 5 p.m. Um, so I mean, obviously, free agency is dead in the NBA. It's all about trades. So we'll see what deals the Mavericks can make between now and then, or if there's deals after the moratorium um, that happen for them. I mean, obviously the Mavericks will have the full mid-level exception available to them. I think they'd probably be more likely to use that to absorb a player via trade than to sign someone. But I don't know. I think again, there's a lot of questions, a lot of business still left for the Mavericks to do. I think we'll see how much they can achieve, and how much they can change this roster going into training camp next season. Um, we do we want to talk a little bit about Dusty May, because I don't Rohan and Fazil, you guys may have talked about it a little bit, but Vinay, I'm curious to get your thoughts on the hire of Dusty May, what you thought about it, what he's going to add to the Mavericks.
That was my probably my number one target of any of these coaches that were hired this offseason. That includes Sean Sweeney. That includes Mike Nori. I was just a big fan of what he did this past year at Michigan, and I think he's going to make that translation rather seamlessly. I'm curious to see what he does for the development of players like Derek Lively, because we saw what he did for the big guys at Michigan with Ademara and Morez and Yaxel. I mean, all those guys, like I brought this up on the stream the other day, that none of those guys that were in any preseason mock drafts in the lottery, and all three of them went in the top 12 of this draft just tonight. So I think he's a proven developmental coach. I think he's got good X's and O's too. I thought that stood out last year in Michigan, and just think it's the right guy for the job. And I think he's going to enjoy not having to deal with the stresses of college recruiting, where you have to recruit these guys 365 days a week, and he can just kind of focus on the basketball component of basketball coaching.
Yeah, from looking at some interviews from him, I think that that really was one of the motivating factors for wanting an NBA job. I think someone asked him last year if he could envision himself being the coach of the University of Michigan in 3 years, and he said probably not. So I think that based on what I've seen, like you said, the recruiting aspect of it was not something that he enjoyed. I think now here he can focus solely on coaching a basketball team, and obviously the chance to work with Cooper Flag is a very attractive opportunity for any coach. Um, Obviously, there's a lot been made about the track record of coaches that have made the jump from college to the NBA. John Beeline was the last coach to do so from Michigan back in 2019, and he stepped down midway through that season. But obviously, John Beeline was in his 60s, I believe, at that point when he made that jump. It was a bizarre hire to begin with. And some other famous examples were Larry Brown, who was the last coach to do it immediately after winning a national title, like Dusty May's doing. Billy Donovan did it when he coached the Oklahoma City Thunder back in the 2010s. Decently successful coach. And then Brad Stevens, obviously, in 2013, when he made the jump from Butler University to the Celtics, had a pretty successful coaching career himself before transitioning to an executive. So I think that there's reasons to be hopeful that the Dusty May thing will work out. I mean, clearly, I think he has the NBA mindset. Um, and obviously, a lot of people are saying this too, that coaching in college these days is much like coaching in the NBA and as in the NIL era, especially for a big program like Michigan. You have, the financial resources to pay players, to attract players with money, and obviously it's managing egos. Like the college game has changed a lot, and I think Dusty May, you know, came up at the right time to be ready for this opportunity. So, I think that he's still got to prove himself in the NBA, but everything I've seen has been nothing but glowing reviews for this hire.
Yeah, with every coaching hire, especially if it's a guy that's never coached before in the NBA, you really have no idea how it's going to pan out. Even as excited as I am for this hire, but all the signs are there, I think, for this to be a positive hire. I feel like Schmitz and Masai kind of lasered in on this being their guy. Probably at the very beginning, him or Shire. I'm curious to see which one they would have preferred if they were asked to, but um, I think it's a hell of a coup for the Mavericks, and I think it's like the right timing for Dusty May too.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to attract a coach from college like that, I think it took some serious pull. But with Masai Ujiri and Mike Schmitz, I think that the Mavericks had what it took to do that, and obviously with Cooper Flag. And I'd be very curious to learn more about what his philosophy is for team building, for offense, defense. Like that's not something I'm very familiar with right now, but I'm very curious to learn more about what his vision is for a successful team, especially the Mavericks.
Well, one little tidbit he did this year was Yaxel wasn't really much of a 3 point like shooter or like high 3 point rate type of guy before this year at his last 2 years with UAB. But when he brought Yaxel in, he kind of turned him into like a higher volume 3 and D type of guy. So I mean, in general, he is kind of like an analytics guy. He likes the three ball. I know he didn't necessarily have that type of personnel this year at Michigan with like three front court players that went top 12. He kind of just played to those strengths, but I mean, he's an analytics guy. I think he's going to be a team that he's going to be the type of coach that encourages 3 point shooting and things of that nature. And I think I could see why, thinking about it more and more, why he likes Morez the most out of all these three guys he just coached.
Yeah, I mean that I think is super important. The analytical mindset to an extent, but I think also just like empowering your players and giving them the confidence to expand their game. Because for a guy like Morez, um, or even even Derek Lively, like we've joked about it over the last few years about is he ever going to be a 3 point shooter? And at this point, he probably never will be. But maybe Dusty May is the coach to allow him to explore that part of his game a little bit more. Um, so I think, we saw that with Jason Kidd when he first took over, giving guys like Dorian Finney Smith, I think, the confidence to expand their game and play make more. That was something that really, helped Dorian Finney Smith at that time. Jalen Brunson as well. So a new coach can do wonders for even existing players on the team. So I think that's great. I think I wanted a coach that was offensively minded just because I was a little bit jaded by this whole defense first mindset. And again, I love defense, don't get me wrong, but defense at the expense of offense, I think, was something that was a hallmark of the Nico Harrison, Jason Kidd era, especially after the Luca trade. And I'm excited to be moving past that to a more modern and more adaptive philosophy. And I think that's what really stands out about Dusty May.
Yeah, we in the first stream, Rohan and I didn't talk about Dusty May much beyond like just the connection to the Michigan guys and how that might have impacted our decision to draft Morez. But from what I've read within the last 24-ish hours about him and his capabilities as a coach, he seems like a real Maury ball kind of guy in that mold, which hey, I'm all for it. And also the fact that he's a great developmental coach again seems like another signal to me that we're going to get younger because this roster is not exactly the youngest roster, and it is definitely not suited for Maury ball. So I think like sounds kind of at odds with his philosophy from what little I know, to be fair. And again, he's pulled off some crazy coaching carry jobs. Like, again, he coached a championship team this year, but he also took FAU to the Final Four, right? Which seems pretty astounding. Um, and like y'all were mentioning, he seems like a good personality manager. So again, like I don't know if there's really. I'm not trying to glaze the guy too much because I don't even know that much about him myself, but like it doesn't seem like there's very much bad that you can point at unless the roster by the start of next season is not suited to like what his coaching style is, and that's not going to be on him, but just like an inability to form a good roster, which that's further down the line. I don't want to focus on that at the moment.
I'm just gonna get everyone prepared. We're gonna play a lot of a lot of lines with just a bunch of wins out there, just based off this current team. You might
I
see
mean,
Najee at the point, Cooper at the two, PJ at the three,
oh
Morez at
my
the four, and
god.
Lightning at the five.
Oh my
I don't think we're going
god.
to though. Just let everyone get
I don't
prepared.
want any more Najee Marshall at the point lineups. Like, with all due respect, I love Najee Marshall, but we saw that way too much last season. I'm over it at this point. Like, I think Najee could have a place on this team, especially given the fact that they still don't have much creation. But I I don't want that. I want a better viewing experience for this team next season. I mean, Kyrie will certainly help with that, but Kyrie alone is not going to fix it. He's 34 years old, coming off of an ACL tear. He needs some support. So I think ball
That's what we
handling.
drafted Luca for in the 20s.
Well, we'll see how much he plays. I'd be very curious to see how much Sergio De Larrea gets in terms of playing time this season. I mean, I'd love to give him some burn because why not? Right? Like we're in a position right now like where we need to get guys developmental minutes, and I think that Kyrie will help expand a lot of these people's games. That's for sure. But I want more. I want shooting. Clay
I think
Thompson,
it's
who
time to
very well
make
may not.
amends. It's time to make
It's,
amends with Brandon Williams.
I don't think Brandon Williams is coming back unless Mike Schmitz puts his foot down and says I need an Arizona player on this team. I don't think Brandon Williams is coming back. Like again, he's a small guard. He doesn't really fit the Masai Ujiri um, mold, and obviously it's Mike Schmitz's team as well, so I don't want to discount him. But I don't feel like Brandon Williams has a place on this roster. I don't even know if um, Ryan Nemhard does, for that matter. I mean, Ryan Nemhard is a tiny guard, and we talked about it already. Fred Van Vliet is probably one of the few, if not the only exception to this Masai Ujiri philosophy. But
And
Fred Van Vliet was a
he's got
stocky
100.
defensive guard.
I was going to
Yeah.
say he's got 100 pounds. He's even taller than him, and Fred Van Vliet made multiple all defensive teams in whatever conference Wichita State is. And
Yeah, exactly. So I don't even know if Ryan Nemhard factors to be or is a factor for this team. I mean, he might be on the team, but I don't know how much he's going to play. So I'm still going to trust Masai Ujiri and Mike Schmitz, but like I said, there's a lot of work to balance this team out. If I had to guess, I don't think PJ Washington is getting traded this offseason. With his extension just now kicking in, I don't know if teams are dying to trade for that contract. Gafford, I still think it could happen, but it's got to be with a team that really loves him. Um, I thought that the Raptors and the Hawks might be fits for him. Clearly did not happen in the first round today. Still could happen in the offseason, but we'll see. But I feel like he's a guy that definitely has to get traded before next season. Like there's just no point in having him on the roster anymore with him, Lively, Morez, PJ. It's just a lot of overlap with those four guys.
We can basically safely say that we've seen Marvin Bagley's last game as a Dallas Maverick, correct?
Um, I would think so too. I would think so too. Like, yeah, and the free agents this summer are Marvin Bagley, Brandon Williams, Dwight Powell, um, and Chris Middleton. I don't think any of those guys are coming back. If you would ask me today, I do not think any of them are coming back.
Might
Yeah.
be Chris
So
Middleton when he comes back for the AAC.
Chris Middleton is definitely going to Miami. That seems like a pretty obvious one.
yeah, so I don't want to keep this like running on way too long, but just to, piggyback off of this point that we're going on about right now. Um, I agree with you on PJ not really being a realistic trade candidate at this time because that extension's kicking in. Gafford, I do hope he, gets traded for something that's like relatively worth his value. Um, and I say relatively as a loose term here because I do think we're gonna have to like kind of eat on a bad trade here if we want to like just get rid of his cap space, or whatever. Um, yeah, Middleton. I don't know. I heard like early on, there like around the time the regular season ended, there's some chatter about keeping his bird rights for like use in a deal. Again, that never made sense to me. I have no idea what that means. Like, it's not like his cap hold is going to be like 40 million plus something, and he's obviously not gonna. He's gonna get like close to a vet min, so he's not even like he's a free agent. Like, I don't get what the idea is there. I'm just chalking him up as gone. Um, let's see. Clay, I think, is going to be a buyout guy. As much as I would like to trade him, because somewhat lucrative piece, somewhat, but probably a bit overpaid, and he's an expiring contract. So I don't know. I still feel like he's eventually going to be a buyout guy. The Mavs probably will try to shop him. I don't know if they're going to be successful. And Najee, I feel like he's gonna, he's probably their most lucrative asset out of the vets just because of his brilliant contract, and that's expiring. Maybe that actually works against him a little bit. I feel like we're going to keep him, and he's going to like be one of those trade deadline guys in February that drums up a lot of interest, hopefully. Kind of like how he was this year, because I think Philadelphia wanted him and we held on to him. So I don't know how I feel about that, but again, yeah, that's how I'm feeling about our guys who are the most realistic trade candidates. As far as free agents go, yes, I think Marvin Bagley's gone, which is a bit of a shame. I did like him just as a pure scorer off the bench, but again, not the biggest loss. And our two-way guys, Tyler Smith, I think he's gone. Pulikitis, I hope he's back. I think he's probably gonna be another two-way contract. And Cisse should be here. Um, maybe another two-way guy again. I don't know about any of these guys' eligibility, but since they were both rookies, I imagine they have more two-way eligibility. And our guy Dwight Powell is supposedly retiring, right?
We'll see what happens, but like I said, I don't foresee him being back with the Mavericks. That would be a shocker because again, you don't need another center. Like I understand the need for veterans, but that's Kyrie Irving. I think that Dwight Powell just doesn't have a spot on this team going forward. So we'll see what happens with him as far as retiring. I don't foresee him playing for another franchise, but I suppose there'd be interest in him if the Mavericks didn't bring him back. But um, yeah, in any case, I think that there's some moves that have to be made. We'll just see what exactly can happen. I mean, yeah, Chris Middleton. I think the rationale for keeping him again was the bird right thing was just for his benefit. So if there was a sign and trade deal that he could be a part of, then he could make more money that way. Um, and that's what the bird rights are for. But I agree with you. I don't think that that's a scenario that's going to come to fruition. I think that he will probably be a minimum signing for another team, most likely Miami. Um, and Marvin Bagley, I did like him as well, but again, with Morez, with PJ, I just don't see a spot for him on this team. Brandon Williams would be very surprised if he was back too. And I think those are all the guys, all the free agents. Clay Thompson, I mean, I don't anticipate they would buy him out in the summer. I think that would not really be the wisest decision in the world. I mean, if you're not gonna trade him, you might as well bring him into the season and see what he can give you in terms of shooting. And then maybe if you're if you're struggling midway through the year, then you can buy him out near the trade deadline. But I'm sure there, Miami, for example, would have interest in Clay Thompson, but just depends on on what they could get in return for him for that $17 million expiring salary. So um, I'm still so curious to see if they can trade Gafford. It's so weird talking about trading these guys because at one point in time we were super excited when the Mavericks got Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, and now we're talking about them about how they're relics of the past that need to be, that we need to move on from. And in a way, it's true, but it's funny how fast things move in the NBA these days.
Yeah, just one more guy that I completely forgot about, but it's weird because he is on the roster. He's not a free agent, but I think we all probably all want him gone just because he's taking up a spot and we don't know what to do with him. But AJ Johnson, the Wizards, they picked up his team option for 26, 27 at like the beginning of this past season. So he's here, and I don't know what the hell to do with him. I think like do we waive him? Technically, he's a prospect, but he's not much of one. Is he going to be like thrown into a trade? I think that's the most likely case for him.
There are
Masai
some
signing him
really
to a $200 million extension.
there are some nice basketball leagues across the Atlantic Ocean that he should try out.
I don't even know if he's good enough for that.
Oh
Maybe
man,
across the Pacific Ocean, and not even in China. I don't even think he's good enough for China. I think maybe in like the
oh man,
Philippines or something.
oh man.
But yeah, I mean, we'll see about that. He's on a very small contract, and maybe they can throw him into a trade. Another player that I keep forgetting is on this team, Caleb Martin, and I don't anticipate the Mavericks being able to get off of him. Look at seeing just both of you guys' reactions right now. Um, but yeah, Caleb Martin, I keep forgetting that he is on the Mavericks right now.
The
Um,
only consequence of the Grimes Martin trade is that we're stuck with this fucker's contract still.
yeah, he's got 2 more years at $9 million, $10 million. Again, not a horrible number, but he hasn't shown enough to have any sort of trade value, and so I anticipate he's coming on to he's coming into the season on the team, unless any team wants him for the 48th pick. But I think it's going to take a little bit more than that to dump him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll give him the smallest amount of credit. I think he got healthy. I think he played just a tad better at the end of the season. He actually played sort of well on defense, but at the same time, he's
Woohoo!
not worth 10 million this year. He's not worth 9 million next year. So
Yeah, he's an albatross, unfortunately, and that's why the Mavericks have to be very intentional in who they sign and how they allocate their money this summer. But at least we have a competent front office in place now. We don't have a front office that's going to make mistakes like that or make dumb basketball decisions like trading Quentin Grimes for Caleb Martin. Um, just a horrible decision, and just yet another player on this team that probably shouldn't be here. That has a lot of overlapping skill set. I mean, I don't even know if he has overlapping skill set. He just doesn't have much of a skill set. um, but is probably going to be on the team. But that's why, unfortunately, you got to move guys like Najee, like Gafford, maybe PJ, to try and make room for better fits around Cooper Flag and Morez Johnson. So we'll see what happens. Did something happen, Fossil?
oh no, I'm looking at the chat comments. I the most recent comment is saying that there's going to be a massive blockbuster between the Nuggets and the Celtics, but I'm refreshing my Twitter timeline. I'm not seeing anything yet.
Oh, well, I guess we got to stay on a massive blockbuster. What could that be?
Jaylen
Is
Brown.
that could it be Jalen Brown? Let's look at the chat.
Are we just being trolled?
Oh, and we might.
I think, yeah,
Oh,
probably is.
David. Oh, David Adelman. Isn't he the coach?
Okay.
Yeah, the I don't know, man. I mean, obviously the Giannis trade happened yesterday, but I feel like that saga just dragged on so long that the resolution was honestly more a sigh of relief than like this. Oh my god, this huge trade happened. Like it's been telegraphed for a year. So when it finally happened, it was like, wow, it actually happened. Like finally. But I don't know if we're gonna see a move in that stratosphere for the rest of the summer. Maybe we will. Who knows? Well, is that a good stopping point for this episode? I mean, we got the second round of the draft tomorrow. The Mavericks have the 48th pick. Not ex- my my reaction to that too. I would be very surprised if the Mavericks picked anyone worth more likely than not, whoever they pick at 48, if they pick a player, is going to be a two-way guy. Like that's typically what type of contracts second round picks get in this day and age. So it could be Mike Schmidt's and Masai Ujiri's first chance at getting a two-way signing. But beyond that, not anticipating a ton of activity for the Mavericks tomorrow.
Yeah, just real quick, shout out to Killicam, Jaime Cardona, and Dallas Forever. I wish like we could have probably replied a little more, bit more to your comments. But dude, personally, I'm exhausted. I've been
What'd they
streaming
say?
for like 2.5 hours cumulatively tonight, and I was hosting for an hour and a half, which was a first for me. Vinay, obviously, you were there in person. I'm sure that was like exciting, and it's like 1 a.m. for you. Jay, like, you're a working man.
Yeah, I mean it's been a long day for you guys definitely, and I appreciate you, Fossil, for hosting our earlier stream today with Rohan. I think you guys did a great job with that, and obviously, yeah, Vinay, it's been a long day for you at the draft. You're on the East Coast, so yeah, appreciate everyone in the chat. Thanks for chatting with us, commenting every stream. I mean, Fossil, you named some of the guys, Killicam, Jamie Cardona, Dallas Forever. There was some other guys. Oh, Pod Maverick. Shout out Kirk Henderson and the Mavs Moneyball folks. Um, appreciate them for popping into the chat too. And look, we had 1,700 people on Twitter watching us, which is incredible. I think that's an all-time high for us. So appreciate everyone's support. It means the absolute world to us. Thanks for coming on the journey with us through the season, through the pre-draft, um, talking about all these prospects. I was right. At the end of the day, I was right. The Mavericks did not pick Braden Burries. I had made that prediction a while ago. It came true tonight, and now we have Morez Johnson and Sergio De Larrea. We'll see what they do with them. We'll see what the Mavericks do in terms of shuffling their roster this summer. But again, can't thank you guys enough for your support. Fossil, Vinay, appreciate you guys joining. I know it's late for both of you, but I thought this was a great stream, and we hit on a lot of topics that I wanted to talk about. It's been a newsy couple days for the Mavericks.
Just wish the mood was more jubilant after we drafted Bam Adebayo and Luka Doncic.
Well, it will be jubilant when we get the 84-point game next season. Then you'll be able to say I told you so. No, I mean, look, I think I think we all have high hopes for Morez Johnson. I think the Bam Adebayo comps are years away from coming to fruition, but I like his potential. I think he's in the right situation, obviously, with a coach that knows him better than anyone in the world. So that is an exciting prospect, and again, we'll see how everyone fits together. But I think he and Coop are definitely going to be a very solid defensive front court. All right. Well, Fazil, Vinay, thank you guys so much. Thanks everyone who tuned in. We might be back tomorrow with another stream, depending on what happens with the Mavericks. But in any case, a lot more to talk about this offseason. So be sure to tune into our streams as and when they happen. Follow us on Twitter at Mavs Film Room if you haven't. Subscribe to our YouTube channel where this episode's streamed as well. Follow us on Instagram. I think that's all our platforms. I'm losing it at this point, so I think that's a good stopping point. Go Mavs. We'll see y'all soon. Take care.